There we go.
Sorry, had a bit of a false start there. I was a little over eager.
Yeah.
Forgot to set my playhead at the beginning of the track, which I guess really doesn't matter because I could just move it. But the OCD-ness I have with Logic and how I record stuff just makes me feel like I want to put it there before we actually kick off. I want to start fresh. I want to start the beginning.
Oh yeah, you definitely wanted to put it there, dude. You
Yeah.
wanted to come early, and then you just really wanted to make it.
Yes. Yes. Oh gosh.
Hi, I'm Nick,
And I'm Josh.
and this is the PUDs Podcast.
What's up, man?
Nothing much, dude. Did a thing this weekend. I did a thing.
Yeah, you sure did.
Yeah.
I didn't do much, so I'm gonna open this up to you.
Yeah,
I know you did something
All right.
real
You
special.
didn't do anything?
Yeah, no, I haven't gotten into anything in a couple weeks, dude. I've been super busy. Basketball season's over for Jeremiah now, so that'll free up some of my weekend time. But yeah, man, no, I haven't been up to anything, and you've been up to something pretty special. So it's story time for you, Nick.
All right. So yeah, we're gonna get into it in interest of time and logistics here. But this past weekend on Saturday, on March 1st, got up and finally finished my Winter 48 on the Bonds. So this hike, for those of you that don't know the stats, I think everybody knows the Bonds are kind of legendary in their sort of difficulty and their remoteness in the Pemi Wilderness. But the by the book, doing the route that we did, which if you're paying attention and you've listened to the past podcast episodes, you probably know that I just had the Bonds left. I most recently did isolation. I already knocked off Zealand a couple weeks back, so I didn't need to do a full Z-Bonds traverse like many people choose to do, especially in the summer months, to grab Zealand and the Bonds. So with that in mind, I actually chose to do the out and back from Lincoln Woods, which it's a thing. It's a long day. To say the least. By the book, it's 22.6 miles and 4,700 feet of elevation gain. So, and I mean, a lot of people, and it's funny, you try to tell yourself this on the way out. I'm like, well, the first 6 miles are around 12 miles of this route because it's on old rail bed, which is just the Lincoln Woods Trail, and the sort of beginning portion of the Bondcliff Trail is flat, but it's still a long day. And this is without the conditions that we were dealt on this particular day. So I was texting the usual group of people kind of leading into this week. I had already sort of been dropping even back on isolation to like Mike M and Paul and some other different people that I'm like, hey, I think I'm probably going to go for a Bonds out and back from Lincoln Woods most likely. And it's funny because it was mentioned to me several times like, well, we'll definitely stay at Zealand Hut again and do a traverse. like let's do that if we're going to do that thing. We don't have to do the out and back. So I think it was a first for a few people. I think a couple people in the crew had done out and backs from the Bonds, of all 3 Bonds from Lincoln Woods in a day. But the deliberation was going on in the crew, and I was watching the weather, and while the weather for Saturday didn't look awful, or I should say it didn't look great, it didn't actually look as bad or nearly as cold as some of the days that we've had this winter. So the temperatures looked relatively mild. I believe the forecast was really to be, for some attempts, was like in the 20s, almost like low 30s for the morning. And at some point, the wind was supposed to kick up and some snow was supposed to move in, and the temperatures were going to drop. But it looked like that was going to happen a lot later at night. So this winter's been just wrecked with snow, and I don't mean wrecked like it's been an awful winter. It's been a fantastic winter from winter standards as far as snow up there in the Whites. I know a friend of the podcast, Mike Trokey, was saying that Vermont's Green Mountains have had their 5th snowiest winter on record, I believe. So They've been getting a dump up in a lot of different areas. But lost my train of thought with that little side tangent. Talk
about snow. It's been a snowy winter.
But it's been a super snowy winter. So we weren't supposed to get snow till like sort of later in the day. But again, it didn't look awful. We've been getting blasted by snow. We've been getting blasted by all these Arctic sort of fronts dropping down with wind chills regularly, it seems like in the -20s, -30s, a lot of the weekends this winter. So I was taking what I could get with, and again, not the end of the world if I didn't finish this winter, but to get as close as I've gotten, I was definitely eager, and I knew that I had support of a group behind me. So I was watching the weather and I'm like, it looks kind of good. Everybody was feeling that it looked pretty good for an attempt at this rather lengthy day hike. And we agreed to meet at 6 a.m. at the Lincoln Woods Trailhead, which for those of you who don't know is off the Kank, kind of after you head past Loon. It's really the next big trailhead that's down there. It's like right past like the Hancock campground. And pretty much if you're going out of Lincoln Woods, other than a couple smaller day hikes, like there's obviously a bunch of different hikes you can do out of there, getting into the Pemi Wilderness. But if you're bagging peaks, 4,000 footers, most likely you're either going for the Bonds or you're going for Owl's Head from here. That's kind of the gateway to those two things. And I think I posted a picture like on Instagram with a picture of the suspension bridge going across in the morning. Yeah. But it's kind of like if you see that bridge, you generally know you're in for a day. Or if you see someone posting that, you know that they're probably going for something. And we agreed to meet right around 6 a.m. I think we got going probably not too long after it. And we had a good crew of people for this. And I've been thanking them over and over again. But I wanted to shout out. We had Mike M. We had Paul Gamel. Paul, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. It was great sharing the trail with you. But Paul got in touch with Mike. And we've actually met Paul in person a few times at some of the Reckless events and stuff. He's a good dude.
Paul.
And he actually joined us. And then we had good old Steve from the Cape, then Jake Peter, and another dude, Dave, who Jake had actually hiked with, or I should say Jake, Mike, Peter, and Steve actually hiked with across the Bonds last winter. Very experienced dude in the whites, kind of a gritter. Also super nice. It was great meeting you, Dave, if you happen to ever listen to this or be listening to this. It was great sharing the trail with you. And along the way, on our trek up, we actually crossed this hiker, Rob, who had actually camped out overnight around the junction. Not really the junction, but where the Bondcliff trail splits off from the rail bed and it starts to actually go and make the ascent up to Bondcliff. So that was our crew that we had started out with pretty much the day. Like I said, got started around 6 a.m. I think it was just starting to get light out. The weather was looking good. We actually could see some blue skies as we were starting out. And that there kind of begins the monotonous flat walk for just about 5-6 miles before you start actually ascending up to Bondcliff. From there, I'd say trail conditions were pretty good. We all had our snowshoes on. There was some fresh snow in the morning since it's been another thing this winter is just getting used to driving up like in the dark in the snow. It was another sort of slow ride after Concord, which wasn't spectacular, but the roads, I guess, weren't awful compared again to some of the mornings that I've been driving up. Isolation, it was nothing like when I drove up for Isolation. I will say that. That was the whole thing. But yeah, there was enough snow for us to use snowshoes. Pretty well packed. You could tell that there was sort of a trough from people going out. This trough more or less started to disappear. I don't know when we got probably up to around 3,000 feet or so, 2,500, 3,000. It was clear that there was a lot more snow. I'd shared some pictures and I'll share with this episode as well, of Jake in front of me on this interesting side hill section where it was just a pain in the butt. Like you really had to dig in with your snowshoes. You could tell it was hard packed underneath. Luckily that didn't last too long. Started switching back up to this really long sort of side hill section. I'm guessing it follows old logging roads up sort of the Bondcliff trail. I had swapped out in front and broke trail for a good bit, mostly up to the summit of Bondcliff from there. The last little ledgy scramble that you hit before you break out on the summit of Bondcliff, I tried to go up to the left on it. And Paul, who actually is a maintainer for the Bondcliff trail, actually sort of took point and went to the right and was able to get up this thing because I just could not get my snowshoes to bite in. It was just all powder and sort of ice. We pushed up there and everything was sort of clouded at that point. Layered up, got up to the summit of Bondcliff. Again, just totally clouded, and made myself walk out onto the sort of the legendary cliff that people take photos on. I've told myself since I was out there last time that I was going to go out on this thing. I didn't care if it made me want to poop myself, which it did a little bit. Though I will say it helped being cloudy because I couldn't really see as much. But then the clouds also started to clear at the same time, and I definitely had like a holy shit moment when you realize you're just sort of in the middle of a giant ravine with, I don't know, hundreds of feet of drop around you. But Mike got a pretty cool photo of me sort of standing out there in the fog. I think we all, or most of us, sort of went out there. And it was at this point, it finally cleared up a little bit, and we got some cool views. You could sort of see West Bond. You could see Franconia Ridge for a little bit. It's just, it was amazing, like how I remember in my head being out there, how incredible the bonds were. I think back in 2016 when Ash and I did it on a summer day. But it really is unlike anything else in the Whites. You're talking 9 miles just to get to the summit of Bondcliff from the Lincoln Woods trailhead, and that's one way. And probably a little under 3,000 feet. So it's a long trek, especially breaking trail. I mean, like I said, that trough was kind of there in and out, but it was mostly gone. You could tell the snow was packed underneath, but we were pretty much swapping out all day, at least up to Bondcliff at that point. And right around here, we were kind of regrouping and having some food and stuff, taking some pictures. And Peter and Mike both opted to stay behind. I know Mike kind of was cramping up and couldn't get rid of it and just really was saying he was like 90% of the time I'd continue on, but we knew that it was going to get more difficult up Bond and West Bond from there. And Peter, I know, had kind of been recovering from sort of a flu a few weeks back and just felt like he wasn't 100%. And it definitely respects them for making those decisions and not wanting to sort of put the group at risk, I guess, really in the grand scheme of things, or not be able to sort of keep up or sort of participate. They both kind of hung out there for a while, and actually Mike even hung out to the point before the weather moved in. He got a shot of us all on West Bond when we pushed up there. And it was kind of funny because
that was a cool picture.
Because they were talking about getting to Bond. It was a super cool picture. It's impressive what phones can get sort of nowadays. And it was cool that he hung out and waited and saw us up there.
Yeah.
But in our mind at that point, we kind of were thinking like we're going up to Bond, and at one point, so we're down to 5 of us at that point, and we completely lost the trail going up to Bond. So it just disappeared in the snow. Kind of more where the Alpine zone changes back into, I guess, spruce again. And even though a bunch of us too, like I had my Garmin watch going with sort of a route, and I think people had All Trails and Gaia going, and even with that, it was still really difficult to tell exactly where we were going. So I think it finally has changed my mentality of like, I get why people use these devices. It's not really a cheat code in any way. It's like when you're out there in the winter like that, even if you had a compass, like it's pretty damn hard to figure out where you're going. And even with these routes, like it's borderline impossible. Like the trail corridor just completely disappeared. And all of us, I at that point hadn't fallen into a spruce trap. More on that later. But I know David fallen into one. I think Paul might have popped in one way steep. We all kind of were pushing across this ridgeline, and it kind of becomes a gamble of like you want to get through the trail, but you're like, I also don't want to go waist deep in snow, pushing through. So eventually we sort of doubled back. I want to say we're about 200 feet below the summit of Bond. And again, clouds kind of blowing in and out. And finally, we sort of pushed through a bunch of spruce and were able to get back on the trail corridor. We still weren't exactly sure where we missed it from where the Alpine zone kind of went back in the woods. So, and didn't really notice on the way back. We kind of had a guess maybe where we went through. But from there, we finally pushed on to Bond. And I'm not going to lie at this point, even like I'm looking at the day, like I'm really seeing how everybody's feeling, because this to me at this point was even like, I'm like, this has just been a lot. Like we're all breaking trail, flat out exhausting. Luckily it wasn't cold or too windy. Like we had that on our side, but it was just, it was a lot just getting to Bond in my opinion. So we all sat down, kind of regrouped there. And everybody was game for West Bond, and they're all like, we're doing it. So it was super cool too. Everybody's like, yeah, we're getting it for you, like kind of deal, kind of that this was the day. Trail corridor, luckily much easier to follow to West Bond. And we figured after getting up to Bond and losing trail, we're like, there's no way, like West Bond is a well-defined trail corridor. Like it's a little spur path. It'll be fine. It's in the trees. We shouldn't have to worry about snow blowing it over and not being able to find it. So we get down to the junction on where sort of the Bondcliff Trail and the West Bond Spur branches off. And for number one, the trailhead sign is almost completely buried under the snow, which I don't know how tall that thing is. But the amount of snow up there was impressive. I think everybody's been talking about this in the Whites this year and in the Adirondacks and in the Green Mountains. Like there's just a lot of snow, especially up high. So we start making our way to West Bond. And within, I think, a couple minutes, we realized we were definitely off trail. We started sort of going up over towards almost kind of the southwestern side of Bond again. Cut back onto the trail corridor. Again, the trail corridor, we saw sort of could see a trough from snowshoes here and there. but mostly non-existent, I would say. It was very tough to tell where you were going. And the real fun began, especially for me, when we got to this blowdown section right before the summit cone of West Bond. So I've got my Garmin track on, and I'm kind of, I believe Paul was behind me at that point, and kind of Steve. And we're poking across this field, and before I know it, I literally plunge basically head deep into a spruce trap. So I've heard people talk about these legendary things, but and when I say nobody got a picture of it, which was a mixed feeling I had, I'm like, nobody got a picture of it after that. I really wasn't like that. I was actually just really glad to be out, but nobody got a picture of it. But yeah, I went up to my eyeballs in snow, and I have to say the part at first I was like, kind of like, I'm like, okay, like don't freak out. Like you're okay. Paul's right behind me. I'm like, we're good. I'm not by myself. I've got people that can help. And then I turn around after taking off my pack, and Paul's trying to pull me out. And then I feel a thing collapse deeper beneath me. So I don't know how much snow there is, but I can guarantee you I'm about 6 feet tall, pretty close. And there was over 6 feet of snow for sure up on that section of West Bond. And again, I've covered spruce traps a little bit here and there. But again, that a spruce trap is basically where branches kind of leave air pockets underneath sort of the trail in the ground where snow kind of just falls on top of them. So what happens is this snow stacks up on the spruce branches and stuff, and there's basically just a pocket of air underneath. So what happens is when you're like me and you step into it, you disappear like Bugs Bunny down the rabbit hole, basically, is essentially what happens. So so I took off my pack and everything, and I'm trying to get my snowshoes untangled from a piece of spruce. There's literally a spruce branch like between one of my snowshoes that I'm fairly certain it was Paul, in my moment of panic, that pulled it out of my snowshoe so I could actually get out. In a dire scenario, I imagined I did have a knife on my chest strap, a multi-tool that I could cut it off with if I had to, or cut spruce, but it's like, it was very hard, like I said, to just be like, I'm okay, I'm chill, this is fine. I'm 11 miles from civilization, and I'm stuck 6 feet in a snow trap with a pack. It's all good.
Oh no.
But thank you, Paul, again for getting me out of that trap. He wasn't sure whether he was still going to listen to the podcast after the ordeal that I put him through finishing my winter 48. But we regrouped after that, and we all agreed that we weren't going to go across that field anymore, or what looked like a field with little spruce trips kind of sticking up out of it. We poked around, and I think Steve and Dave sort of found the trail corridor again. And eventually we poked up to what we were pretty sure was the trail. The only thing that was a little weird was I remember there being a ledgy scramble up to West Bond, and that's what everybody was kind of recalling. But there was so much snow that there wasn't really much of a scramble. It was more just kind of going up a powdery snowfield up to the summit. And kind of before I knew it, we were standing on top of there. And it was one of those two where it's funny. Steve's, and I think Steve listens too, but Steve's usually super chill. And he said something to the effect of, he's like, congrats, Nick. He's like, I wish I had more or I felt more celebratory or something like that. But it was just a very honest comment because it kicked everybody's ass getting up there, I think. Nobody was like feeling super chipper after we get up there. It was like very much like, we got up here. I did want to shout out and thank Mike. He actually bought a 4-8 balloon or balloons to actually bring up, but they were helium. So we couldn't really inflate them. Yeah, I don't think we were going to try to blow them up anyways up there unless someone had a helium tank. I was joking with Steve. I'm like, you brought up a helium tank for me, right? And he's like, yeah, we thought of that. But I was saying it was the thought that counts. That was super nice. When he said that earlier in the day, I honestly thought he was joking. So I was stoked. We spent a little bit of time up there. And at this point, I don't think any of us really knew the weather was going to change as quickly as it did. But right as we were coming down, it started snowing a little bit. And as we were going up to Bond, it was like, I think I turned to like Dave behind me at one point, and I'm like, it's actually snowing like really good right now. Like it was starting to accumulate on the trail again. So I'm guessing this was sort of our second storm front that was moving through. Now, fast forward we start going down Bondcliff, and Jake's in front and I'm behind him with everybody else. And we're getting to the point where the wind gusts are so gnarly that it's actually obscuring visibility. And a couple points, we were going basically cairn to cairn trying to look where to go. So, and having freezing rain and snow sticking to the side of our face. So while I wouldn't say it was full conditions like people talk about, like Ty's book, it was pretty ridiculous. It honestly, it intimidated me quite a bit. I was very relieved to get below tree line. I haven't been in conditions like that too often. I was glad to be with other people. and Jake did a great job leading us across the ridge. And right on I think we did a pretty good job navigating. It was a little tricky getting off Bondcliff, finding where the trail re-entered the woods, because our tracks were blown over from earlier in the day or snowed over. So you couldn't even tell where we came up. Couldn't tell where Mike and Peter, who had already gone down at some point, went down into the woods either. So again, the Garmin route was super helpful. I think Jake was kind of getting an inkling, and then Dave was behind me being like, you think we're off trail? And I'm kind of looking, I'm like, oh yeah, we're definitely off trail. So I don't know where we were headed, but it was not back to the trail. So we ended up navigating back eventually into the trees. And I was like, I'm not going to lie, I was pretty damn relieved. And I think a lot of people were like, we got back down. Like, it was one of those days where I don't think you would have wanted to be up there too much longer. And I forgot to mention, we actually crossed a hiker on West Bond that was going up. And I do know that she made it up there and back, and actually shouted out and sort of said thanks for helping break trail. And then we just had the long, quote unquote, death march to get out of there. So we started a little after 6. We finished, I think, 7:30, 8 o'clock. We were hiking out in the dark for a couple hours. We did leave beers that I brought at the junction right where the Bondcliff Trail sort of splits off and starts to ascend. So we had those really quickly on the way down and put on our headlamps. And then we just had mostly a very, very quiet walk out as it was blowing snow in the dark all the way to the Lincoln Woods trailhead. Long
so how
day.
long were you guys in the conditions for?
Like exposed on that ridge, like, I don't know, 40, we were moving pretty quickly, like 45 minutes. We were like, we were getting just really like enough wind to blow you around. It was a little bit better after we got more near the summit of Bondcliff. Really just that area coming down from Bond, we were just getting hammered. Like there was one point where Jake was kind of like, do you think we should put on our goggles and balaclavas and stuff? And I'm like, I think we should just keep moving. Like basically we need to get the F off the ridge. Like I don't want to wait to see how windier and how much worse this gets right now. Like we can see, like, let's kind of keep moving. Everybody was kind of cold too, because it was warm and wet. Like Jake was saying, it was actually around 37 on Bondcliff when we started. So it was actually pretty moderate, but it was like down to like 20 by the time we finished.
Wow.
With the wind kicking up. And it was I think when we finished at the trailhead, it was like 17 or something. So the weather kind of pushed through, I think, a little bit quicker than everybody thought. But yeah, dude, it was crazy. So that was my 48 finish, which I've been telling everybody for some of the easy days I've had, like the Adams Madison undercast day, and these days that were temperate or not bad. That day made up for all of it. It was a very difficult day. There was nobody that was looking at me being like, it was an epic, and like, don't get me wrong, I had fun. It was a super memorable day. It was an epic day to finish, but nobody looked at me being like, that was easy. Like, I think Steve was like, this was a lot different than the day that we finished for Mike's. Like, they got blasted with full conditions, but he's like, we slack packed from the junction with the West Bond spur up to West Bond. Like, it was that nice of a day comparatively. So the trail breaking, everything else was just crazy. And I know I keep saying it, but I really do want to shout out, like, I was so humbled. Like, that's the main word that's come to mind with this whole experience. Without those people I was with, there's no way in hell I would have gotten to the Bonds or gotten all 3 of them that day. It would have been impossible. I don't care how good a shape you're in or whatever. It just wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have happened. There was too much snow. If I got stuck in a spruce trap by myself like that, the amount of energy I would have exerted to get out, I wouldn't have been able to go for West Bond, or I wouldn't have felt comfortable doing it. Like, it would have been a stupid decision to go out there solo. And yeah, I'm just really thankful that everybody had my back on that one and really helped me get it done. And I think really it's just a big reflection on this winter of, like, those longer hikes, like Isolation, the Bonds, Owl's Head, like in winter in the Whites, unless it happens to be really mild, or and even if it's not someone you're directly with, you're relying upon someone breaking out that trail at some point, really, to get that bed down so people can get out there and bag the peaks in the winter. So this winter, especially with the snowpack and some of the conditions being variable and some warm-ups and some really, really cold blasts here, it's been sort of a wild ride. We always talk about how amazing this hiker community is, but even like Paul, I had never hiked with before, so I was like, this dude's like a beast. Same with Dave. I don't think anybody, like, honestly, I think some of those dudes are some of the strongest hikers in the Whites. Like, I'll be completely honest with you, and definitely some of the most knowledgeable. So I was glad to have them sort of in my circle to help me get to West Bond that day, because there's no way like I would have gotten there without them. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's a pretty epic. That's an epic story, and it's a really what a tremendous way to finish off your winter 48. You know what I mean? Like, would you want to go out any other way? Like, would it just, if it was just like another hike, would that have been okay? Or was it cool?
I don't know. I don't know. Like, it was cool. I think I'll be looking forward to going out there again on a nice winter day, maybe, or like a nice day without snow.
Yeah.
I was at one point, like when we were going across Bondcliff, and I was like, you have to be freaking kidding me, dude. Like, it's going to kick up like this right now. Like, it's been so crazy. I'm like, we're going to like, because I thought it was kind of windy. Jake was in front. We had like a couple of those wind gusts where it was blowing me and him around, like pretty much, and hitting us where you kind of brace yourself. And like, so I don't know. It's not like it was blowing 100 miles an hour, but it was getting nasty. And then when you start getting those gusts of wind where it's erasing the trail and you're like, where's the next cairn? Because I can't see far enough up the ridge, which again, it's not like it was like that the whole time, but we had a couple moments where even for guys that went across, again, when Mike finished his 48 last year, they got blasted in this almost the same spot. I think coming down, it's probably just the way the wind funnels through there up the ravine, sort of up that southern ridge from Bondcliff, and they were like it wasn't as bad as last year, but he's like that was pretty gnarly. Like that was pretty crazy. And I think that Rob, who we had just met, was like, he's like, not only did you finish, like that was freaking ridiculous. Like that was some serious. He's like, I've hiked a lot in the whites and I've never experienced that. And I wanted to be like, me too. Like same here. And also like, I don't know how much I really enjoyed it. Like it was kind of like one of those, like we realized like, again, we talked about sort of different people here on the podcast that have gotten stuck out there or whatever. And like, that is not a good place to be in bad weather on Bondcliff. Like it's not a very not a very wide area and stuff. It very much like I had a little realization. I'm like, oh shit, like this is how people can really get in trouble out here. Like this is how it happens. Like visibility drops and you lose. I mean, again, like I said, we all had GPX tracks and navigation, and we still had a hell of a time getting to West Bond and figuring where the trail was. Like you can see the peak, but to get there was just like it was nuts. It was a lot. And again, I'm sure hindsight being 2020, if I got out there again, which I definitely want to get out to the bonds again at some point, I may check the snowpack before joining someone else in winter, unless it's one of those people I was with or I owe somebody something, because that was a thing.
Yeah.
But right now I'm still kind of like, damn, that was pretty wild.
Yeah. I think this is one of the ones that you're gonna remember, and this is a story that you're gonna be telling over and over again for years to come. So what an epic way to finish up. Like I said, it's a story that you've done so many hikes, but I think this is one that's going to stick with you for a long time.
Absolutely, man. So yeah, that was the bond. So winter 48 finished. I already submitted my application to the 4,000 footer committee. Nice. So you'd be getting some patches, and I gotta say too, like I've been into like other things like the 52. I haven't finished that, or like the seasonal is sort of a tentative thing, but the winter 48, I think if you had told me like when I started hiking that you'd be going for that, I think I would have been like, wow, you're crazy. There's no way like someone that didn't grow up hiking from Rhode Island is gonna go do that. But I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's cool, man. It's crazy the ways and the paths that life takes you, and sort of the people you meet, and how things end up shaking out. And I mean, it definitely is a certain personality type that I have where I want to go for things, but it's not like I wanted to go for this, but it's not like something I think even 3 or 4 years ago I would have been like, I could do this. Like it was a weird moment being on West Bond, be like, holy wow, like I'm here, like I've made it, like I'm here, I'm alive. I still have to hike 11 or 12 miles to get back out. But
there was a different when you got back to the car, a big sigh of relief, I'm sure.
Yeah. And shout out to Mike, who got his cheeseburgers from McDonald's. He actually ran out into Lincoln and got cheeseburgers. And he was funny. He's like, by the way, the roads are pretty shitty. I was like, cool.
Did you drive home that night?
No, I stayed up there. Yeah, okay. Ash was like,
smart.
You should stay up. And I actually had points left from my Las Vegas hotel stay, which was cool because I didn't realize that with one of the hotels they had there was in the chain Woodward. So I had a free stay. And there were people being really loud in the room next to me, and didn't really matter a ton. So yeah, man. And then drove back the next day, and yeah, man, that was it.
That's it. Now you don't have to hike anymore for this winter.
No.
You don't have to.
Made it with a couple weeks to spare. And I was happy. Man. And good luck to anybody else that needs the bonds this year. I know that people did it earlier, like the other week in spikes and stuff and spots. So it's just conditions have been crazy with the amount. Well, not crazy. A lot of people are just saying this is a real winter. But if a real winter means that we get like 8 feet of snow, I don't know if everybody actually wants a real winter.
No.
It's been a winter for the snowshoes.
Oh man.
Word.
All right, dude. We got some guests.
We got some
to the guests.
Yeah, we got some guests. We're gonna roll through the next music moment tonight and get to our esteemed guests here. We're very much. How many times can we say guests in the last sentence? Guests. All right, let's get into them.
Let's get into the guests.
Let's do it. All right, so tonight we've got Cindy and Paul from the 48 Peaks Alzheimer's Association. I know you guys are both, involved with volunteering for the organization, and I've actually participated in 48 Peaks, so I'm super excited to have you guys on.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. Cindy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us. It's also nice to chat with you again. My name's Cindy. I am the 48 Peaks Ambassador Chair, so essentially the head of our volunteer committee. And this is my second year as Ambassador Chair. I've been volunteering for 5 years now and participating in 48 Peaks. This will be year 8, so it's been a bit. My connections to Alzheimer's, because 48 Peaks is a hiking fundraiser for the Alzheimer's Association. My connection is my grandmother. She passed away in 2010 and lived with dementia for much of my middle school and high school years. So she's my first inspiration for this work, and currently her youngest sister, my grand aunt, is living with dementia. So I have 2 immediate relatives on my mom's side who have some tie to Alzheimer's and dementia.
Yeah, that's tough. It seems like I feel like everybody you talk to, I'm kind of learning now too. I was kind of younger in my family, but I believe that at least one of my grandparents out of the 4 had dementia, which now it's funny. I was actually explaining, you guys actually taught me this is sort of the dementia being sort of a symptomatic and like I believe it's the most commonly occurring sort of form of Alzheimer's. But I think some people still think they're like separate things and they're not interrelated. So thank you for educating me on that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something I learned too. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's actually the other way around. So it's
okay,
gotcha. The most common form of dementia.
Also dementia. Yeah.
Gotcha. So I got it wrong there. Thank you for clarifying and educating.
So can you have dementia without having Alzheimer's, or like the other way around? You can have Alzheimer's without having dementia.
They're not one and the same, but
yeah, so they're different.
You can have dementia that's not categorized as Alzheimer's, if that makes sense.
I got you.
Gotcha.
No,
Okay.
That handsome stud, that's Paul. We talked about Paul a couple of times on the podcast.
Hi, Paul. Yeah, Paul's been mentioned on the podcast. We almost saw someone's child go into the Sabbath Falls at the end of a sandwich break. We spent some time on the trail together. He's a lover of ladybugs.
Yes.
But all that aside, he's a good guy. Paul, you want to introduce yourself? I'll let you talk.
Let him introduce himself.
Yeah, I mean, Nick, we actually met on the 48 Peaks hike last year.
Yeah, that's true.
Coincidentally enough. So my name is Paul Lamar. I work for Cindy.
Don't work for me.
So I am. This is my first year as a 48 Peaks ambassador. I participated in the event last year in honor of my father, actually in memory of my father who had just passed. I have a unfortunate long career with Alzheimer's. It's been in the family for about 30 years now, starting with my aunt, Vanelda, who was, really my call to action and getting involved with the Alzheimer's Association about 10 years ago. Ran my first half marathon, the Boston Run to Remember, fundraised and worked to raise awareness. That escalated, if you will, into running the Boston Marathon for ALZ Assoc again in 2018, and then when my father was diagnosed in 22, that's really where my engagement and connection, I was always like one layer removed because it was an aunt or an uncle that had it through the years. But when my dad was diagnosed in 22, it was really, really the wake up moment, and really where my intimacy with the disease and caring for someone with the disease really became front and center in my life. I ran the 2024 Chicago Marathon for the Alzheimer Association, and then got involved with 48 Peaks last year, just somewhat by happenstance. But it was a truly special day. We can get into further, I'm sure, in conversation. But it's a quick little synopsis with about myself and certainly my connection to the disease.
Yeah, so I know too. So both of you obviously have the connection to the disease, but was there sort of a moment where you, or like I don't know, like not a turning point, that's probably the wrong word, but sort of a point where you were like, hey, like I'd like to sort of volunteer, like do something further and like really and put in some more time to sort of help out with sort of the Alzheimer's Association and how they sort of contribute to the fight to end Alzheimer's?
Yeah, I guess mine, I watched my mom be a caregiver for my gram for many years, and I didn't understand truly what was happening at the time. I was a teenager, but my gram actually passed away. It was my first semester of college. I was out in Western Mass, and just due to logistics and timing, I wasn't actually able to make it home for my gram services. And it was one of those things at the time that made sense because I discussed it with my parents, but when I came home for Thanksgiving and, we visited her graveside instead of her bedside, it was one of those moments where I made a mistake. Like, I regretted that decision. And it's something that just stayed with me for many years until I heard about 48 Peaks from my friend. And she happened to be hiking Franconia and came across a group of hikers in purple. And that was one of those moments where I was like, I want to do this because I love hiking, but also I want to give back to, a community that means a lot to my family and try to make a difference, try to help find new treatments and research and such, just so other families don't have to deal with what my family dealt with. And, after the first year that I actually hiked in 2019, we did Cannon. It was this so powerful, like peaceful healing moment for me. When we actually hiked, it was like my way of saying goodbye to my gram in my own special way. And I didn't know I needed that for it was 8 years since my gram had passed, 9 actually. And that's when I was like, I want to do something. And then of course, the first year I volunteered was 2020, which was a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah.
But that was, I guess, 2 moments for me was the initial hearing about 48 Peaks. And then after participating, it was one of those, I really want to do something with this group.
Wow.
More than just hiking with them. So, and here I am 5 years later. So.
Oh, that's powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really emotional at the time. So. Yeah.
And Paul, I know a little bit more. Yours is a little bit more recent. I know you ran the marathon too, but kind of what was your deciding factor to sort of get involved with 48 Peaks as a volunteer?
Yeah, it was, they just said a few minutes ago, it was kind of happenstance. I had, signed up for Chicago in 2020. You sign up basically like a year in advance. So I was already training for Chicago. I was already fundraising for Chicago Marathon. And my dad passed. It'll be a year on Sunday. I'll try and keep it together. Right now, it's certainly front and center, for my family right now. But, he passed March of last year, March 9th. It was, I would say, mid to late April. And I was having it was a Sunday afternoon. I was just having a low moment. And I said, you know what, I can sit here and just self-pity or, whatever the case is, or I can get out and do something. So I shot up to do the Welch Dickey Loop and just happened to run into Eric Todd Sweet, and we got to talking, and he was. He was a blessing to run into that day. We chatted, finished the loop together. And, while we were on the loop, he said, you should join our, when I told him my story and why I was there that day, and I just lost my dad after his pretty rapid decline from Alzheimer's. And, Eric's like, you should join my Alzheimer's hiking team. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, so he starts telling me about 48 Peaks, and in true Eric Todd Sweet fashion, he immediately calls Lynn Sweezy, who's you all will know, and Lynn is fantastic. And he said, Lynn, I just met this guy, and I'd like him to be on our team. What do you think? And Lynn's like, yeah, absolutely. And it was late April and the hike was early June. So it was only about 6 weeks, in between when I signed up and the event itself. And, I talked to Megan O'Neill, who's the Alzheimer's Association chair, senior manager for this program in particular, and some of the longest day fundraising and such. And, it's like, where's the money go? At the end of the day, I said, because I'm already fundraising for Chicago, and I would like to get involved with this as well, but having two fundraisers going on at the same time,
it's tough.
It's hard. It's not my first nature, to ask people for things, but when she told me how the money was appropriated and really, half goes to the national chapter and half goes to the local chapter, it was kind of a no-brainer for me. Like, put Chicago on hold. I've already met that fundraising minimum, and I just focused, put the pedal down and focused all my energies on fundraising for the Mass New Hampshire chapter, and kind of the rest is history, so to speak. So it was it was just so present. Because I had just lost my dad and just been through, really down deep in the weeds of caring for someone, with Alzheimer's. And, my mom was his primary caregiver, but, me and my siblings kind of rotated a week at a time. And, just having to support my mom and how difficult it was to take care of my dad, and, which is effectively, taking care of a toddler or an infant. I'm changing my dad's diapers. I'm spoon feeding him. I'm, doing anything and everything I can, all hours of the night. That was really my call to action. I was, like I said, I was always a layer removed, kind of supporting my cousins and supporting my aunts and uncles that had suffered with the disease as well. But now being thrown right in the thick of it, it was, really a no-brainer. Like, what can I do? How can I get involved? And how can I, certainly heading into this year, how can I continue to be involved?
Yeah. I mean, you kind of mentioned, fortunately, I'm really glad our paths crossed that day on the Alzheimer's hike and stuff. And got to know a few people through that hike as well. And I was glad I could join you guys. But I remember me and you, for whatever reason, ended up kind of hiking together on the way down for a while, Paul. And I could tell just by the tone of your voice and sort of look in your eyes and stuff. And you're like, you could tell this guy's been through it. Like, it really, to me, brought it home. Because, I mean, you do these fundraisers, and sometimes I feel like it doesn't always hit with what you're doing it for. I mean, everybody knows it's a good cause. And everybody's heard of Alzheimer's, I think, mostly by this point. It's sort of how debilitating it can be. But hearing your story and talking to you on the way down, I was kind of like, wait, it really brought it really immediate and front and center for me. And I'm like, oh, this is what it's helping for. Like, it's helping people to better going through this thing and helping to try to avoid this from happening in the future. Like, hopefully one day, or at least alleviating it. So it was a lot. It was intense. But it was good to know like what it's for. And I did want to mention too, like, and I know we've even plugged it on the podcast what Alz 48 is, but do you want to sort of go into what the longest day is, what the actual event is? Like, we all know it's sort of a hiking event, but if you got something, Josh.
Before we do that, let's talk about because Paul, that story is so raw and real, like, and we have talked about 48 before, but before we get into 48, let me ask you guys. So the Alzheimer's Association as a whole is what is in charge of like this 48 Peaks, and I'm sure across the country they do other little things like this. Let me first say that's what an incredible thing it is to get the community involved in knowing like your audience, right? Like to set up a hiking challenge for people that live in New Hampshire, it's what a way to do it and get the word out there. But let me start by asking, I guess, so what is the Alzheimer's Association, and where do the funds go?
Mm-hmm. I can answer that, and Paul, you can help me too, definitely. So Alzheimer's Association, they lead the way to end Alzheimer's and all other dementia. They help accelerate global research, driving risk reduction and early detection of Alzheimer's and other dementia. And they also help to maximize quality care and support for not only patients, but their families and caregivers. So one of the main things that these funds help support is the 24/7 helpline. This is a phone line. You can call 24/7, 365. There are master's level clinicians on the other end of the line who can help you with any question you might have, no matter what moment you're in with your loved one or your family. There's over 200 languages offered, so no matter what, there's someone who can help you. There's also various face-to-face support groups that are offered and created and supported by the funds that we raise. One of our volunteers, actually, she's a young caregiver, and she is a member of a young caregiver support group and has greatly benefited because she's actually in her mid-20s. There's not a lot of people her age that, her mom was diagnosed in her 50s with early onset. And I mean, when you're in your mid-20s, there's probably not a lot of people who are experiencing what you're experiencing as a young caregiver. So this support group has been incredible for her. I mean, there's support groups not just for young caregivers, but anyone of any age, be it sandwich generation or someone like 30s, 40s, anyone. So that's another resource that Alzheimer's Association provides. There's also various educational programs, either in person or online, some that are just simple, like what are the 10 warning signs of Alzheimer's? Maybe some financial advice, because as we all probably know, this is a very financially expensive group of diseases. And they offer financial advice in that way. There's also care consultations, and just in general, there's a lot of advocacy and policy work being done that we might not hear about. So that's just a small piece of what the association does. I don't know if Paul, you have anything else to add?
I think you nailed it, Cindy. It's funny. I know you didn't mention Alana by name, but I actually just referred to. So Alana is she's phenomenal. She's a primary caregiver for her mom. I actually met someone online in a Facebook group recently in the same demographic and same situation as Alana, and I connected the two of them. And hoping things work out well there. I do want to reemphasize the support line. It's something that I leveraged. The hardest thing, and I mentioned this on Slazer, but the hardest thing that I will go to my grave saying it was one of the most challenging things in my life was when we had to put my dad in a memory care facility. There's nothing that prepares you for that. My dad's, there's 3 phases of Alzheimer's, early, mid, and late. And my dad was kind of mid to bordering late. And so his disease had progressed enough that, it was time. He was no longer safe in the home. He had a couple falls. It was no longer safe for my mom to have him home. It was just too much. But while his symptoms had progressed to a point that we were no longer able to keep him in the home, they weren't far gone enough that he didn't know what was going on. And, so it was an extremely, extremely difficult time for all of us. moving him out of the home into a facility. And I did not even have like one iota of where to start with how to process that, how to have the conversation with him. And so that's where I leaned on the support line. And I called and spoke with counselors, multiple occasions. And I don't know if, I'm from a large family. And so I shared all of these resources with my family as well. And so I'm sure I had family members that were also, reliant on these lines as well. Not just that, but, a lot of online educational programs, webinars, a lot of pre-recorded materials and such. And it's just the work that the Alzheimer's Association does. It's, you can't put a dollar figure on it. It's and so the funding from events like 48 Peaks or the marathons or there's a big bluefin fishing tournament in Gloucester.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
It's actually one of the biggest. It's
Several
for the
times.
Mass New Hampshire chapter. I think it's the top 3. I think.
Yeah.
Fundraisers. I think the marathon or the gala is probably 1 and 2, but. And it goes on across the country, Walk to End Alzheimer's, et cetera, et cetera. These, these events are critically important to continue to help drive a lot of the initiatives that they're driving, both for caregivers and like Cindy said, advancing research as well.
So like that line that you were just talking about, Paul, so that's something that through these funds is available for free for people to partake in if they need some counseling and things like that. So it's a free resource that these funds are basically helping to provide people to counsel. That's awesome.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. If any of your listeners need the line, I know we'll plug it. I think I sent it to Nick, but the line is 1-800-272-3900. Like I said, you can call 24/7, 365. So.
Yeah, it's amazing to me. It's like you have all these big organizations or many fundraising organizations that I feel like sometimes they seem so big that I don't want to say it's out of touch with the human aspect of things, but to have a helpline that anybody can call at any point is pretty amazing.
Definitely.
That's a big
Seriously.
deal.
And it's like Cindy said, sorry, I feel like a parrot, but
No, it's all good.
It's staffed with counselors that speak 200 languages. So, regardless of your demographic and such, it's, they are staffed to answer your call, regardless of your situation.
Mm-hmm.
You don't realize how key that can be to sometimes when you're going through it, when you're in the thick of it, like Paul, and like you just described, like I can imagine like being in the thick of it and you can just kind of get surrounded in that, the confusion, the fear at some level, like to have somebody to kind of have an outlet to talk to with somebody that really understands kind of what you're going through or what's gonna lie ahead to kind of ease you into where that path's going is I'm sure is priceless.
Yeah, without question, and that's part of what has made the events that I've participated in as well. Whether it's the marathons or 48 Peaks, like being around people in similar situations that are either have been through it or in the middle of it. We had a moment on our 48 Peaks hike with Nabi on our team. We had a great group of people, but we had a moment. We were probably halfway down on our descent, and I think we had stopped.
It was at the. I just have a weird photographic memory with trail hiking, but it was at the junction of where the Gale River Trail hits Garfield Ridge Trail. I think we all popped down there or whatever. But,
and I think we were waiting for some of the lower hikers to catch up and such, and we just had a moment at that point. Nabi, I believe, had just lost both of his parents.
I think literally like I don't know if it was a week before, or is it like you had just gone through, or maybe one of them, and
Yeah.
Anyways, but yeah, I'll let you tell the story, Paul. Sorry.
Yeah, and but between the three of us, we had I had just lost my dad, and Nabi had just lost his parents, both of them to Alzheimer's as well, and we just had a moment. It was an intimate moment on the trail. I'm not sure if there was a dry eye amongst the 12, 15 of us that were on the trail.
No.
It just kind of all hit, and it all hit hard. But it just reemphasized why we were doing what we were doing, and I treasure that moment. I treasure that day because it certainly helped me get through the rough patch just a few months after having lost my dad to it.
I think those moments are, like you said, it's a reminder of why we do this. I know from working various hiker celebrations that we've had in June, while I'm helping run the event, I do interact with our hikers, and I ask them what they hiked that day or what connection they have. And I think it was the first year I helped with our hiker celebration. It was at Iron Furnace. And I was running the raffle table. I was chatting with one of our hikers, and I asked her, oh, how did your hike go? And she said, oh, it went well. I brought my mom with me today. And I said, oh, really? And she said, yeah, I scattered her ashes at the summit. And she had passed away at some point in the last few months or year. And I wasn't expecting that answer. And I just kind of was like, whoa. And I, at that point, because I started volunteering during COVID in 2020, we hadn't had a hiker celebration. That was like my first one. And it was my first time interacting with someone who had just experienced, the loss and was using the event, or like the event was their way to say goodbye, like it was for me. And that's why it was like, it's kept me going. There's been other moments too, but that's one of the most powerful ones in my memory. So
that's powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Powerful stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So do you guys want to talk about what 48 Peaks is?
Do you want me to go, Paul, or you got it?
you got this. I'll fill the blanks.
Okay. Nick, did you have a question? Sorry, I cut you off.
I was gonna say, and the hiker celebration, that was a blast. That was the first one I had attended last year, and it was a really good time. So
yeah. Thank you. No, it was at Reckless the last 2 years, I believe, in June. They always throw a good party over there. It's a great space. But yeah, going back to your question, Josh, about what 48 Peaks is. So Paul mentioned there's different fundraising efforts and events across the Alzheimer's Association chapters. So usually it's each state has a chapter or multiple chapters depending on the size. But in our case, we're a part of the Mass New Hampshire chapter. And 48 Peaks now falls under the Longest Day fundraising umbrella. Its focus is around the longest day of the year, which is the summer solstice in June. And the idea being that we shine as much light as we can on Alzheimer's and other dementia. In this case, we're hiking. It's a do-it-yourself event, so you can pick any activity. In this case, it's hiking. And it began back in 2013 when a man up in New Hampshire, I believe he was a volunteer, his wife was living with younger onset, and he wanted to give back to his community that had provided so much support for him and raise funds for Alzheimer's Association. So he decided to hike as part of the Longest Day up in New Hampshire. He got friends and family involved, and it just grew with time. So now here we are in 2025. We're an official event under the Longest Day umbrella with the Mass New Hampshire chapter. We now have over 400 hikers hiking each year. Last year, we raised over $220,000, if I remember correctly, for Alzheimer's Association. Wow. And yeah, it's pretty wild. We've raised over $1.1 million as 48 Peaks alone since it's begun.
Incredible.
It's pretty wild. Thank you. Fantastic. But yeah, the goal of it, thank you. Yeah, it's the whole goal is to have one team on each of the 48 Peaks in New Hampshire, the 4,000 footers. But at this point, we've expanded to include other peaks like to be inclusive of all hiking abilities through our Create Your Own challenge. So there's people hiking 52 with the views. There's people hiking in the Wapak range or Belknap range. I can't say it wrong. Michael have me. I'll hear all about it. But yeah. So it's really grown incredibly, even just in the 8 years I've been involved. So it's really quite something.
Yeah, now you can basically make your own adventure kind of deal, right?
Yeah.
So we actually did Saddleback in the Horn in Maine last year. So I don't know if you had anybody else out in Maine doing any of the 67, but that's where we were rocking our purple shirts last year.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. I think we were one of the earlier ones the way it worked out too. But yeah, so go wherever you want to hike. You can do your own thing and help raise money.
Yeah.
That's gonna be my question so does it have to be specifically in New England? Like, can you be in California and participate? Because we got listeners all over the world, baby.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. We got asked that. Paul and I were at Boston Outdoor Expo over the weekend, and we had a couple questions about this. I believe if you're in Mass, New Hampshire, it would be encouraged to hike Mass, New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. You can do New England, but I would say if you're other states, you probably want to look under the longest day event itself and choose hiking as your activity. You can still, of course, the funds still go to Alzheimer's Association. Right. There are some 48 Peaks like events popping up around the country. So there's a couple in New York. There's, I think, some in Cali and some in the middle of the country. So there might actually be some existing events too that are similar to 48 Peaks. Awesome. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah. I think I got it all, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, just to expand on what Cindy said, it's form a team, or a team can be, as many people as you want, or it can be individuals. I know a number of teams last year were solo hikers. So it's form a team, pick your peak, and our mission is to paint the mountains purple. So, the more hikers that we can get and visibility out there, the better. If you don't want to lead a team, definitely reach out to us and we can get you placed on a team. There's others, they're just, they don't want to take that, that leadership position and such, but want to get involved. Cindy mentioned we were at, the Alzheimer's Association had a booth at the Outdoor Expo, the Boston Run Show this weekend, which was phenomenal. It was truly, a great experience. I was wiped out. Cool.
Yeah, I was wondering how you guys were doing it.
I was exhausted.
Yeah, 10 hours of talking to people about the event, but it was more than that. It was talking to people about their connections to the disease and where they're at with with the disease, whether it's caring for someone or having lost someone. And I don't know how many really intimate discussions I had with individuals with a connection, and it just, man, I was wiped out. It certainly brought me back front and center to why I was there. I was certainly privileged there we talked to a number of folks that are looking to have teams or already had teams or looking to get placed with teams and such. So it's definitely, do not be intimidated by not wanting to lead a team yourself. There's plenty of opportunities to get involved. Or if you don't even want to hike and you don't want to fundraise, but you want to volunteer, we're always looking for volunteers to get involved, whether, it could be someone that might be helping with fundraising or helping coordinate our hikers party. Which is, a really cool celebration. I don't think you mentioned it, Cindy. I think it's at Tuckerman's Brewing this year. So a newer venue, but should be just as special as the years past.
I was going to ask, is there any sort of time span for when, I know you mentioned the solstice, but is there any sort of time span for when you actually need to do the hike, or you can do it?
So it can be really any time over the summer. Our fundraising year ends August 31st, but we do encourage people, if you can, hike in June around the longest day. The really neat thing, thank you for reminding me of the hiker celebration, Paul. The really neat thing this year is we will have our celebration on June 21st.
That's so
So
cool.
it will actually
cool.
be on the longest day of the year,
That's
which is
awesome.
it like chills just every
That's
time
for
I
the
say
first
it.
time, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
At least while I've been participating. So it'll
So
be fun.
I forgot one other thing. There is a tie into the show here.
Mhm.
With it is, there is no fundraising minimum, but you do need to raise at least $100 to get the, they're really quality hiking shirts. They are purple, and there's a great logo, every year on them. The shirts really pop and stand out. And this year, while I don't think we went fully with Lori from Adventuristics Design, her collaboration with Megan on our team is incorporated in what I believe will be the final design.
Oh,
So
super
that's
cool,
awesome.
Paul. I'm glad you tied. I forgot that.
Shout out
yeah.
Lori.
So
I
many
forgot that
thanks to Lori for getting involved.
Thank you, Lori.
Definitely, her artistic interpretation definitely will land, somewhere within what is the final product. So
Mhm.
raise $100, if
Yeah.
not thousands of dollars is even better. But raise $100, you'll get one of these great shirts.
Yep.
And
They're moisture wicking too. They're
Yeah.
really
Oh,
comfy.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah,
Actually, go ahead.
No, I was
Nick?
gonna say just double down on the shirts. I love those shirts. I still wear mine running pretty regularly and hiked in it a bunch last year. And also, I feel like it does a good job not trapping the hiker smell too bad, considering it's synthetic material. So
That's true.
Wanted to say that.
Noted. We've been trying, like when I first joined, we had more cottony kind of shirts.
Ooh.
And then we had one, I think it was the 2021 or 2022 shirt that was like just right. It was like, we need to stick with this material.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
great. Yeah. But I guess going off what Paul was saying, so in terms of this year's goals, we are aiming to raise $225,000 for Alzheimer's Association, and our goal this year is to have 100 teams. So that is what we are currently pushing, is for team leads or captains. Last year we had 96 teams. So I mean, I think we can do it. Like, it's pretty
Oh, right
close. Yeah, it's right there. But if you don't want to lead a team, another way to get involved is we do have sponsorship opportunities for local businesses or companies. And our event manager, Megan, has more information on that if you're interested or might be able to recommend a company that might want to get involved this way. Definitely reach out and let us know. And it depending on the level, your company logo can be on the back of our annual t-shirt. And then there's some other benefits like social media posts and such. So you can have people parading around with their purple and your company logo as well.
Are is signups already open for people to start teams and things like that?
Yes. Yeah, the website, I didn't know Paul was going to take that. I didn't want to steal his thunder.
No, you're good.
So, yeah, the website is live. It is alz.org/48peaks. You can create your team, join a team, or sign up as an individual that way. And we're also on Facebook and Instagram. So anytime you have questions, you can reach out.
Yeah, and I'll basically include all these links in the episode notes. So if you're looking in whatever podcast platform you happen to be in, just scroll down a little bit and you'll be able to find all these sort of helpful, informative links, and also all the information on how you can kind of get involved with 48 Peaks.
Sweet.
Cool. So I did want to chat. I know you guys are both hikers too. We kind of glossed over this, but do you guys want to talk about sort of maybe some of your hiking experiences and what y'all are working on in the whites right now?
Paul, you can go first. Oh, ladies first. Oh, no.
She's
So, well, I am very, very slowly working through my 48 peaks. I'm currently on 34 of 48.
Okay.
So I'm getting there. I've been working on them since 2016. So I'm getting up close to a decade next year on this.
Yeah,
but
they're not going
it's okay.
anywhere.
I'll get there. No, I'll get to it.
Yeah, everybody has their own journey with it. So I feel like too, once you get into that 30s, it's kind of like it starts to get real. Like you kind of got to start doing the Northern Prezzies or the Bonds or like some of the other ones. Like you probably have knocked off and you get a lot of mileage under your feet at this point. So you're definitely in the home stretch, so to speak. So
yeah, it's all the really, really hard ones, the long mileage ones, like you said. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of how I got into hiking, I mentioned I went to school out in Western Mass. I hiked a lot in the Pioneer Valley when I was in grad school. I did the Seven Sisters a bunch. I hiked Mount Sugarloaf. If anyone's from out that way, they're really great they're little peaks, but they're mighty. And got my hiking legs there. And then after school, my friend and her mom were already working on the 48 and took me along on a hike of Franconia Loop in October, and just jumped in feet first on those 48 unintentionally.
Seriously.
And yeah, I very much was like, what have I done?
Where are we?
Well, it was a socked in October day, dreary, wet.
Geez.
I couldn't go to work the next day because my knee was like in bad shape. So, and then I just started doing more of them, and yeah, just kind of stuck. So
that's cool.
That's where I am now.
I really need to get out to that area, Western. I've heard a lot of people say the Seven Sisters is awesome. I'm really guilty. I never even got out to Greylock until like this past November. So to me, it's like I always look at the drive time and kind of like I could go to like Franconia Notch in like 3 hours or under 3 hours or go here. So I'll have to make an effort. That's going to be a New Year's resolution for hiking, is explore more of that area of Mass. Try to get out there and see some of the places in my now home state. So.
Yeah, I feel like at least Pioneer Valley, it's like Amherst area.
Okay.
A lot of people kind of just drive by and don't stop, but it's definitely a good place to check out. And then the Berkshires, like you mentioned, Greylock's great. I actually did a backpacking class last year. I won a gift card or certificate to do an overnight, and I did the AT out in Western Mass, like on the Connecticut border, and it's really nice out there. Really peaceful. So
Really cool.
I'll punt it to Paul.
You got me thinking. I liked
You're up.
What was the mountain I did out there? Like Holyoke. Holyoke's a mountain.
Yeah, Holyoke's nice. Yeah.
Is a nice peak out there as well. Yeah. Yeah, I grew up in southern New Hampshire, so some call it Northern Mass now.
I always forget that you grew up in New Hampshire, Paul. I don't know why. I
live in Mass now. I went the wrong direction. But yeah, when I was younger, it was hiking in the Monadnock area. So Mount Monadnock, Pat Monadnock, and such. We didn't do a ton of it. I would always kind of. Again, I'm from a big family, so just going to McDonald's was a big deal. Let alone, driving, loading up the whole family, and
what do you have? Like 7 brothers and sisters? 6, 6,
9.
9. Oh wow, okay. Yeah, I undershot that. Okay, yeah.
That
would be a lot. I could not imagine bringing 9 children to McDonald's. Oh my god.
Yeah. Well, 10 technically, 9 siblings. So.
Okay, 10.
Yeah. So it was. It was. You were never alone. Ever. Yeah. So a lot of hiking in southern New Hampshire, Monadnock, Monadnock. Used to do a lot of skiing over at Temple Mountain. I don't even know if that's still in business. Over in Jaffrey, I think it is. And I really didn't get into hiking kind of seriously until after college, and I went straight into backpacking, which I loved. So did a fair amount of backpacking up in, I would say, kind of the southern Prudential area, and in Franconia, staying at Liberty tent site or Mitzvah tent site. Ethan Pond's got a nice one and such. And then the kids came and hiking stopped, for a long while, too long, unfortunately. I shouldn't have let it get away. But it just did, for a period. And then once COVID hit, I was kind of back in like full gear. I don't think there is a mountain, a reservoir, any trail system in Massachusetts I didn't hit during COVID. I don't know how many times I did Watotic, and
That's a good one.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Watotic and Wachusett, Greylock, and then I started to just kind of work my way up in New Hampshire and in southwestern New Hampshire. Pisgah is Pisgah State Park is a great area. Pawtuckaway State Park is really cool area as well. It's an old volcanic area.
No kidding. Okay.
It's really cool to look at the satellite. Not to geek out, but really to, like, if you look at the topographical maps of Pawtuckaway State Park, it was an old volcano, and the glaciers, however many millions of years ago, ripped these giant boulders off. I know the biggest boulder in Massachusetts, in New Hampshire, is I think in Madison, New Hampshire.
Yeah.
I just saw recently, but there are some monster glacial erratics in Pawtuckaway State Park. There's this one area called the Boulder Loop that you'll always see rock climbers and such, and it's really, really cool area. And then I just kept moving further north and getting more addicted. So, I kind of restarted my pursuit to the 48. During COVID. I'm at 36 now. I do a lot of repeats, so I'm a hiking whore. So it's like anyone's like, you want to hike? I'm like, okay. Do you need it? I'm like, no, but that's all right. I'm in. So I'll get the list done. My goal, last year was a tough year. Obviously, lost my dad. I lost a brother too. Yeah. My current plan I'm working to is he was the fourth oldest sibling. And Monroe being the fourth highest mountain. My goal is to finish on Monroe on his birthday, which is May 13th. So I got a little work to do between now and then, but I think I can do it. And yeah,
rooting for you, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I owe you one from the Sandwich Range Traverse Day. So when you're saying you're a hiking whore, I did want to bring the story of, I think it was was it a week before or something you did Whiteface past the Conaway? And you're like, I'm never going to do past the Conaway again. And then it was the next week. And I was like, because I needed them for summer. So I needed the Tri-Pyramids and Whiteface past the Conaway for the summer season. And I was like, reaching out to people. I'm like, Paul, what do you want to do? And he's like, I guess so. You were in the middle of marathon training too. I don't know what you ran the day before, but you still crushed it. But it was kind of funny how you were like, I'm never going up past the Conaway again. And I'm like, well, we're back on the summit again. Here we are. We did go up a different way than you went last time, but
I am impressionable.
That was a great day. It's been fun sharing the trail with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, so
yeah.
It's funny, I said this.
Mutual for sure.
Cool.
It's funny, I said the same thing about Passaconaway. I had a horrible time when I hiked it with Lynn, and I was like, I'm never coming back here. And then another friend and I did Whiteface last summer, and I was like, well, we're here. Why don't I just hike it again just to make a better make it better and tell myself it wasn't as horrible as I thought it was. And then I went back. So.
Yeah, it's so much effort to go up there and see three little rocks and
yeah.
Well,
I did.
I was gonna say in the winter you can see maybe I think I did it with Steve for the winter, but we could actually see Carrigan a little bit from that outlook. But it is kind of I always feel like that area of the Whites is just very interesting. It's very quintessential New England, but it's got a vibe. I always feel like when you're coming down, kind of through that whole central. God, I think it's the Wanalancet Trail Association or somebody takes care of all that. Yeah. But it has a vibe over there. I'm a fan of that area.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna hike Whiteface on Saturday.
Nice.
Yeah. Deanna needs it for I think 38 for her. So
does she need Passaconaway?
She doesn't. No.
Oh, okay.
Maybe we grab it since we're there.
Yeah.
But
you got to think ahead. Do you guys have it for March yet?
For winter. I do need it for winter.
There you go. There you go.
That's funny.
Well, I did, the one, I guess, plus, not that I'm gritting by any stretch or such, but it was a seasonal difference when I did Passaconaway and Whiteface, because I did it right before. It was June 19th when I did it before. You and I did. So
yeah, that's right.
So I got that in my belt.
Nice.
That was a cool day. That's a cool area over there too. You got like
the
Poggers.
sleepers are great.
Yeah, sleepers, the tries, and then if you go to sort of the other side around Passaconaway, you got like the old 52 of the View Square Ledge and Mount Pogus, the 52 over there. And I was tell a story. I was over there a couple of years ago. I did like a day in September, but on Oliverian Brook Trail, I think I walked through no less than like 155 spider webs.
Oh gosh.
It was just everywhere. Yeah, there was no. I don't think anybody had been out there in a while. It's kind of funny.
I would almost have preferred that. I walked through so much water because Lynn and I did Oliverian and it downpoured. It became a stream of a trail, and I almost would have preferred the spider webs, honestly.
Oh geez, I don't know. At one point, because I was actually taking video to like vlog with my camera, and I saw a fairly large one by New England standards. I understand there's tarantulas in parts of the country, but it was large enough where I was kind of looking at them like I probably have one on me right now. And I'm just not going to think about it because they're everywhere. Like it's probably just chilling on my shoulder blade or whatever. But I'm just gonna change when I get to the car. We'll just take a shower when we get home and try not to think about any spiders on my person right now.
You had a little hiking buddy, or
yeah.
buddies.
Yeah, there was probably a couple.
Yeah, it's funny.
Cool. Well, it's been awesome talking to you guys. Thank you for all the work that you guys are doing. As part of Alzheimer's Association. I've seen the work. I know, Paul, you're sort of fresh to the volunteering aspect, but I've seen the amazing job that you've done fundraising. Last year, I know you absolutely knocked it out of the park and crushed it. Cindy, I've seen and gotten a little bit familiar with. I know there's so much that goes on behind the scenes and sort of all the pieces to the so-called puzzle and logistics, all these things, but you're doing an awesome job. Like the hiker celebration last year was great. I kind of am getting to see sort of what you guys do a little bit, and it's really cool how like all these people, and we sort of mentioned Lynn a little bit, who seems to have her hand in everything in the way
everything
that comes literally to any event. But
shout out to Lynn.
Yeah, I mean,
yes, we love Lynn.
Shout out to Lynn. But we talk about all these amazing people that are volunteering for different organizations, like maybe Alzheimer's Association or whatnot, within this sort of White Mountains community, and it's super cool to talk to you guys and hash out and hear about everything a little bit, and also to participate. I definitely will either be joining a team or starting a team, and it sounds like you guys need more captains, so I'll probably just start a team.
Yay!
But and try to get out there again and see what's up.
Seriously,
yeah, that sounds great.
What a great cause! What a great opportunity to do it in a different way. I mean, we've all seen fundraising jars and things like that. We just throw you a loose change in where you don't really get to partake in anything in any way. Like stuff like this is really cool. It really gets the community together. It really gets people together. And like Paul shared before, what an opportunity to share stories with people and swap kind of feelings and things like that. So it's a great opportunity for that and to partake and do the hike and raise money so that people that are going through it really can get the resources, get the help they need. Help towards the research and stuff like that. It's really a great cause. So I'll say if you are thinking about, if you are going to go out and hike during that time frame, just hop on a team, put a team together, and raise a little money while you go, and then go to the hiker celebration.
Yeah, we'd love to have you. We also, I mentioned on Facebook, we have some teams that have already posted that they're open to new members joining. I think there's about almost a half dozen now. So if you don't have a team to join, there are other ones. I think my camera just died or something. Sorry,
yeah, we can
I'm not
still
visible now. Okay.
Yeah, we can still hear you. We can still hear you now. Now you're just a white little talking bubble. It's okay.
I know. Hi.
Hi, Bubble Cindy.
Hello. Not the bubble I expected. Thank you.
But in all seriousness, though, yeah, it sounds like there you are. You're back.
I'm back.
Yeah, if you're a new hiker, find someone. It sounds like there's plenty of opportunities to sort of find a team to join if you don't necessarily want to take on sort of leading a team. There's a whole bunch of ways to get involved, between sponsorships to volunteering. You don't necessarily have to get out there and hike, and you've got plenty of time running through the end of August to do this thing. So you can't do it necessarily right around June, even though you might miss the hiker celebration, which is a bummer, I'll say from experience. Yeah. Especially if Stomp lets you start to play just songs at will on basically through his DJ station, or at least through committee. But yeah, just get out there and do your thing. Like Josh said, if you're out hiking anyways, you might as well do it for a good cause. So
Yeah, definitely.
very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thank you so much for having us, and certainly thanks for helping spread the message, because it's certainly an important cause to me, but it's an important cause in general. It's the 6th leading cause of death in the U.S.
Wow.
So it's everything that we're doing touches many millions of people. So thank you.
Yeah.
Incredible. No,
Absolutely.
thank you guys. Thank you guys for all you're doing, and thanks for coming on. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Paul and Cindy. I hope to see you guys in person on the trails soon, and certainly around the hiker celebration time frame. Though hopefully before then, because it's only March, so that'd be a long time from now.
No, we got to go hiking.
Yes, we do.
Paul and I got some peaks to bag here.
Yeah, we do. We do.
I guess I could start helping people bag their peaks.
Yeah.
Instead of being assisted by others.
It's the least you could do, Nick. It's the least you could do.
It's the least I could do. Exactly. All right, guys. Well, have a good night in your respective domiciles, and we'll catch you later.
Awesome.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
What a way to end it.
Bye.
Domiciles.
I like the word domiciles. I don't know. It just seems good. All right.
Great.
Bye, guys. All right, dude. You get anything for tonight's descent?
I think I do. So I've been watching a new anime called Mashley, and it has quickly become one of my favorites. I've watched. I think I've started watching it a day ago, and I'm in like two seasons in. So
Mashley, how do you spell? How's it? Is it like MAS?
H
Like M Ashley?
Yep, M Ashley.
Okay.
MASHLE. Yeah.
Okay.
It is. Yeah. It was. It's captivated me. It's like Harry Potter meets Black Clover, and it's amazing. So.
I know what Harry Potter is. I don't know what Black Clover is.
Yeah, Black Clover is another anime. So. It's you just gotta watch it.
What's it about? What's it about though? High level for
so it's like non-anime
folks.
Yeah. So it is about a man or kid that's born he's just born into a time where like wizards are, or people I think they call themselves like just magic people, like people with magic.
Okay.
Is the norm, and he doesn't have any magic, but he's like super strong. So it's like, yeah, it's just like the hijinks of him trying to fit or he goes to this school.
It's like a backwards Harry Potter kind of deal.
Yeah, a little backwards Harry Potter, but he's like, yeah, he's like the best of them, and he's like super like weird. So it's really good.
Cool, man.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah. So check it out. It's on Netflix. The first season's on Netflix anyways. Second season you're gonna have to figure out for yourself. Word. How about you, man? You been getting into anything good?
No, I gotta go down a documentary rabbit hole on Netflix or something again. Of course, our TV's been kind of commandeered to watch Love Is Blind a bunch. So
Melissa invited Ashley over for the season finale premiere, and I've never been more disappointed in my life.
I know. I'm sorry. We're actually gonna be in Vermont. Seeing
no, I was just disappointed that that's a thing that's being hosted at my house.
Oh yeah, that too. Yep, I was gonna be like, because we could have been like, do you want to do something? We have an anti-Love Is Blind watch party. Just me, you, and Jeremiah just watch like Arnold Schwarzenegger movies or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's it.
Watch some anime.
Yeah. We should watch all the Rocky movies.
Yeah, and what's funny is every time I walk downstairs, Ash is like, "This show is such garbage," but it's like, I'm like, "Why do you watch it then? Why?" And she's like, "Because it's entertaining." I'm like, so frustrated.
That to you
like
to
not
appease you. That's
she's
it.
like, "I just fast forwarded because I didn't even want to watch this part." And I'm like, so like, not only is it like I think it's such a bad show and it's an awful show, but like I have to deal with like her she has these mixed feelings of like she loves it, but like she also has to tell me how bad it is when I go down and also participate. like watching some of it with her, which I'm not gonna lie, I've watched a little bit of it, but it's like it just happens in passing, and I'm just like I give up at this point.
Yeah, I just go, what are those two? Are those two together?
The general rule of thumb is that everybody is tapped on that show.
Yeah, no
mostly.
Yeah, no kidding.
But no, I haven't watched. I mean, I'll shout out the 9 Club again. I was a skateboarder. I haven't shouted that. I think I might have shouted out way back. But if you ever were a skateboarder, like at any point from like the 60s through to like now, the 9 Club is a podcast that basically interviews all different skateboarders and kind of photographers and everything. I'm always sort of watching their podcasts. They're usually like 2 hours long. I tend not to listen to them, but they always have like some really good skaters on. They actually just had Salba and Steve Olson on, which are two kind of skaters more from back in the day, sort of bull riding. They were talking about like riding full pipes in the desert and stuff. So I'm like always into that. I think it just reminds me of being like a teenager when I started skateboarding, like wanting to be in California and like do that stuff. So I think it just tugs at my heartstrings there a little bit, and I find a lot about how it developed with the art and music too is interesting. So the 9 Club, I'll shout them out.
Is there a lot of ska?
No, there's not a lot of ska on that. No.
Oh man, cool man. The 9 Club.
Yeah.
Where can the people find that?
YouTube. It's just a podcast. With their own channel and stuff. They're one of the ones for whatever reason I tend to watch them more because they'll show like video with the podcast a lot of times from like skateboard videos and things like that. So
nice.
I'll watch it.
Awesome.
And Rylan will even watch it sometimes too because they're skateboarding in it. So
nice.
She's like, he jumps down the stairs. I'm like, yep. I never did that.
You don't do that. You don't do that, but he does.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
All right, you ready to get into a hypothetical?
Yeah, buddy. Let's do it.
All right, Nick.
Josh.
While traveling on business, your spouse, whom you love, I don't know why that's in parentheses, but it is. So your spouse, whom you love,
just in case,
is involved in a plane crash over the Pacific Ocean. It is assumed that everyone on board has died, but then the unbelievable happens. It turns out that your spouse has survived. He or she managed to swim to a desert island where he or she lived in relative comfort with one other survivor. This is also in parentheses. They miraculously located most of the aircraft supplies on the beach, and the island itself was filled with ample food sources. So the 2 survivors returned home via helicopter, greeted by the public as media sensations. During a press conference, you cannot help but notice that the other survivor physically embodies the type of person to whom your mate is normally attracted. Moreover, the intensity of the event has clearly galvanized a relationship between the 2 crash victims. They spend most of the interview explaining how they could not have survived without the other person's presence. They explain how they passed the time by telling anecdotes from their respective lives, and both admit to having virtually given up on the possibility for rescue. At the end of the press conference, the 2 survivors share a tearful goodbye hug. It's extremely emotional. After the press conference, you are finally reunited with your spouse. He or she embraces you warmly and kisses you deeply. So, Nick, the question: how long do you wait before asking if he or she was ever unfaithful to you on this island? Do you ever ask? And if your mate's answer is yes, would that, under these specific circumstances, be acceptable? Oh, this is a good one.
Yeah, that's intense. I don't think it'd be immediate, but I'd be like, so how close did you guys get like on this? You know what I mean? I think your curiosity would be like, especially if they're like, yeah, it's like we had to stay warm, so we had to get skin on skin every night, like kind of, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, how close did you guys get?
Hold on, I gotta read this again because
okay.
Did they say how long that they were gone? They like,
I don't know. I think it just said it seemed like it had been long enough that there was just no possibility.
In the plane, it is assumed that everyone on board had died, but then the unbelievable happens. It turns out your spouse survived. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, it doesn't even say like.
Oh,
that
I mean, I feel like the assumption
like
is that it's
castaway,
like a long,
a castaway level of time.
I'm in my head. It was like a 6 days, 7 nights kind of deal.
That's it. Just a week.
I don't know.
Oh man.
I don't know.
I was thinking Castaway. Like, there's no
Yeah,
possible way we're ever
like-
gonna get saved.
Yeah, well, I guess to that point, if I don't know, but yeah, I'd be curious. I don't think I'd come out. Like, I think I'd be glad like
All right.
she was back. Like, I don't think I would like jump. I wouldn't think I would like jump to be like, were you guys doing it? Like, you know what I mean?
you guys
So-
boning.
So,
You guys bone.
so
Oh man, yeah, maybe not. Like for a week, I'd probably I'd probably at some point. But if it was like I said, if it was like Castaway, like Tom Hanks, like talking to volleyball's level of time, I'm probably not asking because I'm probably just assuming. And it's like, yeah, no, I get it. Like,
yeah,
it's been 5 years. You grew a whole beard. Like, it's a whole thing now.
yeah, you're like
so-
a new person now or
Yeah.
something.
A week, yeah, maybe it's like, all right, like you couldn't have held out a little bit longer.
It was like
But
it was like
I get what
overnight,
you're saying.
and they were like 10 miles off the coast of like Massachusetts. And you're like, how did you guys didn't think you were gonna get found? Like, you were in a
The
raft.
Block Island ferry wasn't running.
You could see land still.
We were stranded on the vineyard. We couldn't get
Yeah,
back.
because I'm like, that seems suspect. Like, yeah, we got stranded on Nantucket. You
There
still
was
had your
another
cell
ferry
phone on.
for 4 hours.
I can see you read. I was getting read receipts from you the whole time.
You texted me back, K. Oh my god. Oh, that's funny, dude. Oh yeah. But yeah, I mean,
Me and
like you
Theodore
said,
were having a great
I really
time.
think that you put it on airplane mode. I could see it. Oh man. But yeah, I think the amount of time definitely plays a factor into like
Yeah, I agree with you there.
how long you wait to ask if you ask at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good one. That was funny. That was actually way more funny than I thought it was gonna be.
Yes.
Oh,
Wilson.
man. Wilson, I have made fire. Oh man. All right, dude. You got anything else?
Nope. Want to remind everybody we got a fresh batch of stickers. Still got some left, so just
Yes, sir.
messages on the socials with your name and address, and we'll ship them out to you. As many as
Yeah.
you need or desire, or I'll just pick them out and send them. So yeah, that's all I got.
I like that. I like that you're picking them out. Is it the same? Do you pick the same amount, or do you just like eyeball it?
I usually just eyeball it.
Like it.
It's not like there's like I have them in like a basket, like they're just with a rubber band around them. I can tell how many I'm picking. It's not like
You
I'm
don't
just
just
like,
like-
yeah,
just like
Huzzah.
dig in there, just like
No.
whatever you pull out.
no.
Oh man, that's a
I
much
did-
better technique than I would have.
I did get so from one of our guests we had tonight, Paul Lamar. I actually did get a funny text message from him because I thought it'd be funny. I had some Lawson's Finest liquid stickers left over from where we stayed in Vermont like a couple years ago,
Yeah,
and I gave him a couple with his new PUDs podcast stickers, and he's like, "What's this?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I wasn't using it for anything. You like beer? Here you go.
Some stickers I was trying to get rid of.
Congrats."
All right, guys. So you heard it here. If you request some PUD podcast stickers, you might get some other stickers.
Yeah, you never
thrown
know.
in
Maybe
it, too.
you'll get some Mickey Mouse ones or dinosaur ones. If Rylan wants to contribute.
Some of those, some
Yeah.
Paw Patrol temporary tattoos.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, don't forget to like, review, subscribe. You can find us on social media at PUDs Podcast. You can find us on YouTube. You can watch us on YouTube at PUDs_podcast. And until next time, bippity boppity, give me the zoppity.
Bye.
PUDs Podcast was produced and recorded in Black Cat Studios by the Pud Boys. Find us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving us a review and subscribing. Find us on social media, and we'll see you next time.